Okay, so I guess we will start and probably people will still be coming. So welcome everybody. I am Barbara Pienta and together with Matthew Lariviere here present, we are the conveners of Age and Generations Networks of IASA, and we are joined here by Angela Torresan, who is the convener of Visual Anthropology Network of IASA, and she will also be facilitating this webinar today. So a bit of housekeeping, this meeting is recorded. So if you don't want to be recorded, please switch off your camera and feel free to use chat to ask questions. And if you want to ask any question, essentially, please use the raised hand button. And a few words about this webinar. So the idea behind this webinar was an observation, and we will see whether it was correct, that the anthropologists of aging increasingly often use visual methods in their work, but they do it in a different way than visual anthropologists do. So the way they engage with the multimodal, sensory, oral is different, and we will hear in a second what this means. At the same time, visual anthropologists they engage with the topic of aging and generations in the life course, but the topic itself has not received as much exploratory attention as within the circles of visual anthropology as the race, as gender, or sexuality. So we would love to start making these two groups, visual anthropologists and anthropologists of aging, talk. And this webinar is a small step towards that, we hope. And we are very grateful to Angela that she has accepted our invite to talk today about the fundamentals of the sensory methods. And a few words about Angela. So Angela is, as I said, the convener of VANEASA, but wearing her other hat since 2007. She's a lecturer at the Granada Centre of Visual Anthropology at the University of Manchester. Herself a Brazilian diasporic visual anthropologist. She has been working with indigenous communities in Brazil, as well as with immigrants, Brazilian immigrants in Lisbon and London. And what I have already learned from reading Angela's work is that the audiovisual tools are very useful. The audiovisual methods are very useful tools for rendering our research more collaborative, more accessible for wider audiences, hopefully. So we will be talking about how to achieve that. Angela, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the introduction, Barbara. And thank you so much for inviting me to do this. It's very exciting to talk to non-visual anthropologists. And it's also very exciting to try to engage with people who are not visual anthropologists and try to persuade them into using audiovisual tools in their research. So I'm excited about this. Okay, let me just put gallery view here for myself. It would be very nice, guys, to see you. If you could turn on your cameras. I see that some people have their cameras on. Thank you very much for that. I like to talk seeing you guys and not myself and not, the mirror. Okay, so I assume that you have worked through the lecture that is connected to this seminar. Can you say yes or no? Great, that's wonderful. So I'm not going to go into details on that. What I want to do is I'm going to just start the seminar by reading a very short little text so that I can, to warm myself up to get going. And then what I will do is to go through very basic tips on how to use your cell phone effectively as a camera, so that you can just take your cell phone out at any time when you're doing research and use it as a research tool, use it as or to capture something or to represent something, however you want to use it. For those who are visual anthropologists and who are here, forgive me, this is very basic. There's going to be like the dummy of video camera in your cell phone. And then after that, because we are, how many people are we? Because we are not a very good, very large group, what I'm going to do is, right, I'm going to talk about the cell phone use in research, etc. And then I'm going to go back into the lecture and look at the excerpts of the film Sweetgrass with you to try to translate what I was talking about with the cell phone into a mode of attention with the camera that evokes, provokes sensoriality, right? And then after that, so a third part of this seminar, I will break you into small groups so that you can brainstorm together and come up with one idea that is related to your research, one of you, on how you would use your cell phone in that research. What would you film? What specific aspect would you like to explore with your cell phone camera? And then we come back and discuss that. And after we come back, I can also answer any questions about the lecture that you work through or about whatever I've talked to you in regards of cell phone. I hope that's okay. Yeah. All right. So a short little text here that I'm going to read. It's just a few words, so bear with me. So our smartphones are part of a plethora of digital technologies and platforms that are ever present in our contemporary lives. I mean, do you go out of your house without your cell phone? I'm going to look at you. Do you get out of the house without your cell phone? You do, Etchy? Okay. I used to, I don't anymore. I always go with it. In this webinar, we will take the mobile phone not as an object of anthropological analysis, as the mounting literature on digital anthropology would have it. And you know, a major example is Daniel Miller and the work of his students, but rather as a way of practicing ethnography. We all know that there are multiple definitions of ethnography, right? We are anthropologists here. Some are more prescribed, defined as a method of anthropological research with various prescribed steps. Others are more open, defined as a mode of attention to the world informed by anthropology, by anthropological questions and theory. And others even more experimental, as a way of learning with others about what it means to be human in togetherness. Our working definition here in the seminar of ethnography is a form of attention to what we look at and listen to, or what we would call in film language, to our framing, which allows us to make connections between the particular of such framing and wider concerns. However, for now, I'm going to put all of this conceptual labyrinth and theoretical preoccupations on the back burner in order to walk through some basic guidelines on how to use the camera in your smartphone to make short little videos that look as close to filmmaking as the technology that you have at hand and your time permits. The idea is to give you ideas on how to make really short anthropological oriented videos guided by an ethnographic intention. All of you, I take, have made short films with your smart camera or smartphone, the camera on your smartphone. And what I would like to experiment here is how can we bring this practice, your practice, which is part of your interaction with your technology and with your friends and family, the world around you, as a tool for doing, thinking, provoking, exploring anthropology, right? And especially in the case here, anthropology that is concerned with aging. So we won't have time to become acquainted with editing and the editing software, but there is a free editing software that I recommend called OpenShot. OpenShot is freely available. You can just download it, and there are lots of tutorials. They provide tutorials themselves about how to use it. So even though all of this might seem very rudimentary and kind of innocent, it is very crucial to understand that there is always a theory of knowledge lurking behind any camera style or any editing idiom. And that's the kind of connection that I want to try to invite you to start making with the camera in your cell phone. Now, what are your concerns? What is the kind of theoretical or conceptual interest that you have that might be able to guide the way in which you point your camera, in which you frame your shots? Yeah. Okay. So here's my cell phone. It was without a battery, but now I've charged it, and I'm going to talk about how to use it. Where's my text again? Right. First of all, guys, these are technical instructions, kind of. Storage. It's really important to check if your cell phone has enough storage for you to start filming and storing, the films in your cell phone. The best way is to clear it, to clear the films out of your cell phone and into your computer or into a hard drive, to upload them into a hard drive. So you have to go to settings, to storage, and see how much you have. I am all right. This cell phone is a bit newish, so I have a lot of storage here. Another thing that we forget to do, but you might laugh, but it's crucial. Clean the lenses on your cell phone. Clean, clean, clean all the time, because your cell phone is like, ugh, right? It goes everywhere. It goes on your face and you go, ugh. So it gets very mucky. You have to clean it. Don't forget. Take note of that. Fingerprints, makeup, sweat, everything gets into this. And it's just, a soft cloth and off you go. Switch to flight mode or to not disturb mode. Or else, when you're filming, you're going to get notifications, blips, rings, notifications on WhatsApp, or your telephone might ring. So put it on do not disturb mode, because then you are actually using it as a camera and not as a phone. Okay. Like I said, those of you who are visual anthropologists, who are filmmakers, you're going to have to bear with me because this is quite basic stuff. Check the video quality settings in your phone, and I would suggest that you set it up for 1080 pixels, HD, 30 frames per second. In an iPhone, I don't know where you find this on the smartphone, on an Android, all of them are smartphones, right? But I don't know how to find this on an Android. You would have to check online where, if you don't know already, where you can change the video quality settings. In the iPhone, you go to General, then you go to, you go to Setting, you go to Camera, and inside the camera, which is right here, let me see if I am showing it to you. Oh, no, very bad. Inside the camera, you will see record video, and you can change it. Can you see it? Very badly, but that's where you do that because that's going to make a big difference. If you have 4K in your cell phone, don't use it. It's too heavy. You don't need it. It's going to require too much room on your cell phone and in your computer. Okay. Use it as a camera, not as a phone. when you are pointing. What do I mean by that? Use it in landscape mode, okay? Don't use it on portrait mode. If you use it on portrait mode, what's going to happen is you're going to have those two black, horrible bars on each side. Put it on landscape mode. Be very careful that your finger doesn't go on top of the camera lenses. I do that all the time. So it's, you know, it's quite important that you pay attention to these things. And try to get the ratio. Let me see if 16:90 widescreen ratio, okay, so that your image is rectangular. Never use it on portrait mode unless you want to give the impression that the footage that you've just created comes from a cell phone, because this is what it shows, right? It shows that this footage on a portrait mode is coming from a cell phone. Landscape, 16:9 widescreen ratio. Right, let me see. Yes. Again, use it as a camera and don't use it as a phone. And also when you are filming, what is it that you see more often when people film with their cell phones? And I'm going to do a little theater here, okay? I'm going to stand up. We're not in a classroom, but there we go. People go, portrait mode. Oh, look, this is very interesting. Oh, look at that. Oh, I'm going to zoom over here. Oh, and then you are searching with your cell phone as if they were your eyes. Your cell phone, the camera in your cell phone, your camera should not imitate the movement of your eyes. Our eyes really search very quickly, okay? The cell phone shouldn't do that. Why not? Because you're going to have this very unsteady, jerky kind of image that your audience will not be able to watch at all. You're going to make them sick. So landscape, steady, calmly, you frame something and you go from there. And you move very steady. You use your elbows and your body as a tripod, okay, to steady your camera. And you move with your camera kind of stuck to your body like this. Yes, because then you have something very steady. You don't go like that. That's going to be like I don't know, a dance. Your shot needs to be steady, confident, calm, comfortable. Yes, and why is that? Because what you're doing is creating a shot, you're creating a scene for other people to watch, for other people to use their eyes within your scene that you have created and search, right? So you have to give a world that moves slowly and a scene that's steady, okay? Is that obvious? I'm looking at you guys. Is it really obvious? It is, isn't it? But do we do it? You know why we don't do it? Because it takes, you have to switch your mode. You have to stop kind of engaging on a one-to-one with the world out there and with the people. You need to start to engage with it through here. You kind of, it changes your perspective a little bit, and you have to have patience, and you have to take your time. Another rule that's very important is when you start filming, when you hit that little button, you wait for 3 seconds before you start moving the cell phone. 1, 2, 3, patient 3 seconds. It's not like 1, 2, 3, okay? Why is that? Because when you start a shot, you need to give the audience the opportunity to land on your shot, to look at what this means. So where are we? What does that mean? Where are we going? And then you begin moving very slowly, right? wherever you want to go, whatever you want to do. The best way to film, it's actually framing something and staying with it for a while and let the action unfold in front of you. If the action starts moving, you move steadily with the action, yeah? Or you allow the action to move out of your frame. Whenever you end the shot, you stop your frame steadily and you count 1, 2, 3. This is also important for editing because it's very difficult to edit a shot that is moving, right? You need a steady frame to go from one steady frame into another nice steady frame, yeah? Okay, questions so far about this? No? Okay, there comes my tea. Thank you very much. Right, let me go to my document again and see where I am. Right, turn off the flash, okay? Turn the flash off because even if you don't have enough light in the ambience to film, you shouldn't be filming, or you should get external light. You should get light source from somewhere. Unless you want to make something out of the flash, unless you want to use it as a torch and you want to do something that's a little bit, I don't know, horror film-like, or a suspense, you know, ooh, we're going through an alley, what are we going to find here? The flash makes any shot look really horrible. So use the horror of the flash as horror, okay? Not as a source of light. Okay, set to widescreen, I already mentioned that. Lock down camera exposure and focus. Do you know how to do this in your phone? Tell me. You don't know how to do it on your phone. Okay, if you have a, let me take a sip. If you have an Android, you're going to have to look that up because I won't be able to help you. I'm not quite sure where it is. But on the iPhone, and I have, you know, this iPhone is not the latest. On the iPhone, it's very, very easy. You put your finger wherever it is that you want to focus and you want the source of light. A little square is going to show up, and AEAF lock sign is going to show up as well. You've locked it. And now you can move, and that's going to be locked. Or you come to this little arrow here that gives you more options. And here you can move the exposure. You see? Very dark, very light. Yeah. So and then you lock it. So you can do that kind of thing on a cell phone. It's incredible, you know, the camera technology that one has in our cell phone that we don't know how to use. Why lock auto exposure, the exposure and the focus? Why? Can anybody tell me? Let me see if I see any visual anthropologists here to help me. No.
Well, often the focus, I mean, I'm using a Samsung phone, and you have the option of either locking, say if I was recording your face, I could lock your movement right now. Although it gets tricky because I use a 4/3 camera, and sometimes you don't want to lock on there. But with the cell phone, it probably is good to almost always do that, especially in the wide mode. They'll minimize the shake that most people are going to have if you lock into the focus.
Yeah, absolutely. one situation in which you would not want to lock the focus or even the exposure is if you are filming something that's moving fast. If you are filming, I don't know, a sport, right, a football play, then it's not going to make any sense because you actually need the focus to help you. But usually when you are filming the kind of scenes, the kind of situation that you've seen in Sweetgrass, you know, where things happen slowly, they happen, well, some scenes that don't happen slowly, but that you are taking your time to actually film the action, then auto exposure and autofocus might not be your best option. Autofocus, for example, you might be filming somebody right here, and then somebody else comes and walks behind them, and then your camera focus is going to say, oh my God, what should I do? Is she still interested in this person here, or should I go over there to that person that just, so your focus comes in and out, right? The same thing with the exposure. If you film and the light has, if you move around and the light has changed, you're going to have that effect that the light kind of readjusts. And that looks a little amateurist. Not that we're not amateurs, we're all amateurs, but we can pretend that we are not with our smartphones. Okay, let me see, moving on. Any questions about this? Should I move on? Right. Please don't zoom with your phone. Okay, the zoom in your smartphones do not work like optimal zooms in cameras that have zoom lenses, right? The digital zoom doesn't create an image that's closer to the object that you zoomed in. It actually enlarges a section of the image in your phone, and then it makes it all very pixelated, very grainy. It looks really bad. Unless it's something extremely urgent that you need to look at, then you're going to do it. But the best way to actually get a close-up shot is to come closer. You just come closer with your body to whatever it is that you want to get a closer frame, right? So the different shots, different wide shots, mid shots, or close-ups, you do them by moving your body and the camera in and out of the object of your film, rather than using the zoom. It looks really bad. I think I just lost height here. Yes. Right. Sound. Sound is the only major problem that we have with the smartphones, with the cameras in the smartphones. We don't have much control of the sound. The sound is like this very wide microphone that picks up everything. It picks up stuff behind you. It's not a directional microphone. There are microphones that you can get for your cell phone, for your smartphone, more pre-production stuff. You know, if you get a little, you can get a little tripod, you can get a microphone, but then it becomes a little more of a production, right? What I'm trying to instigate you to do is just to use it like this, yes, as you have it right here, because it's easier, and it's and then you're not going to have to worry about the technology too much. So what happens then? The sound is like a zoom, right? You're going to get good, clear sound. You're going to have to be closer to the sound source. So you come closer to the person who's talking. When you want to do a testimony or an interview, you don't do it in a place that's very noisy. You pay attention to the source of noises, right? You can't really do an interview in the middle of the street or a vox pop in the middle of the street with a smartphone, because it's going to pick up all sorts of stuff, unless it's a quiet place. And unless what you want to do is to do that, is to pick up the environment around you. Yes, if the environmental sound is part of it, then and you film in a busy street because you want to show the busy street, then yes, then that's a perfect opportunity to do it. But if you want to do something else on that very busy street and hope that your sound is going to be as framed and focused as your image, it's not going to work. Okay, so the sound is the major drawback of, but you can work around it. There are some messages on the chat I'm not looking at. Matthew and Barbara, are you? Okay. Light. The last thing I want to talk to you about on the cell phone is source of light, which I was telling you, Barbara, earlier today. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to open this, and I'm going to turn there. Be careful with the source of light. If you're filming somebody with a light source behind them, this is what you're going to get, right? A dark face. Unless you move them, unless you change, you see, this camera changed, the camera on my computer changed the exposure as I moved, right? So unless you change the exposure in your cell phone to my face right here, then you will get my face a bit more lit up. But this is ugly, no matter what. The source of light behind the object of the person that you're filming is going to look ugly, right? Don't do that. It's all exploded. The light has exploded back there. It's all white, washed out. And here, unless you want to conceal the identity of the person. That's a perfect way of doing it. Okay, let me go back. I close the window to control my light, even for Zoom. Right, so the source of light should always be at the back of your camera and in front of whatever it is that you want to film, okay? Or at an angle, if you want. That's all right as well. You're going to have a little bit of shadow, and that's okay. Right. Let me just see if I've forgotten anything. Bear with me a second. Any questions about this? Christine, you have no questions.
Well,
anybody? Barbara.
I have just a comment, but I hope it will be of interest or use for people. So when I was doing my first video, I didn't know what this precious advice that you have given us, so to look through the lenses more than through your eyes. And so what I was doing was I just took the shot, or I just put the camera on something, and then I immediately saw that something else fascinating is happening behind the frame. So I constantly had this feeling that the best scene of my life is just happening somewhere else. So what I did was I just moved the camera. And in the end, the material that I have produced was uneditable, of course. And then I was frustrated, blah, blah. I thought that it's something about me being neurotic. And then I started talking with other people about that. And a lot of beginners would say, and I think also David McDougall would write about that before we start feeling like seeing with the camera, we do that, no? So I guess like it's just, yeah, I hope that this testimony will be of encouragement for a lot of people. But yeah, thanks for this advice.
Yeah. Yeah, yes, that's it. We do that all the time. I do it, because it's the world is too fascinating. We want to get everything, right? But filming is framing. It's exactly that. It's framing something, is containing a perception of everything that's happening. And it's your selection, you are selecting, is your choice and your decision and your responsibility to do that. Now, if, and the feeling that you're going to miss the best shot of your life haunts us constantly, right? You have to live with it. It's just like living with the article that you have to write, and you know, with the deadlines, it haunts you. Is this cloud on top of your head? The perfect shot always haunts you, and once in a while you get it, and you go, "Whoa, great!" So the only advice that I can give to beginners, right, to people who are filming more recently, have been filming more recently, is to train. Do it over and over again, because it's inevitable. You are going to try to chase reality, to chase the world, but what you're filming is not really reality, it's a framing. It's an interpretation, okay? And if suddenly something really good happens here, you either go extremely fast to it, okay, and then you're going to have to cut that movement when you edit, or if you want to keep the change of the scene, you just go very patiently and slowly to the next frame. Yeah. If you're filming people, then it's a little bit easier, because the people or the person who you're filming become your frame, right? Jay.
Yeah, well, one of the comments I would make in terms of mistakes that we all made in early filming, and that I emphasize when I used to teach visual anthropology, I would not let or accept any visual products from students for a while into the class, because they have to learn what's going on in their cultural scene that they're trying to capture, so they won't be trying to just do a slapdash job, but more importantly, they can take that as a substitute for doing ethnography and deeply embedding themselves in the scene that they're trying to capture, and getting to the point where the people that you're engaging with will beg you to document what's going on in the community. And that really is, to me, really essential. It's most problematic when we've had students who were had some professional experience in visual documentation and wanted to just let the camera speak for themselves. So that's one of the things I tell students, or told students, I'm retired now, that don't let the camera speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's what I wanted to comment on.
Jay, where did you teach?
University of South Florida, St. Petersburg.
Oh,
until
okay.
last year.
And are you in Florida?
In Florida, yes.
Wow,
Not,
great.
not in Russia, not in that St.
Okay.
Petersburg,
Amazing.
but in Florida.
This is the beauty of online stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
That we have to stop ourselves from complaining. I really wanted to be in a room with you guys doing this with you with your cell phones, but now we have Jay from Florida, and what a privilege. Anyway, so yes, when the cell phone or the camera or a camera can be used in so many different ways, isn't it? I think that the best way to use it is when you know the place where you are and you feel comfortable and you kind of know where you're going to shoot, where you're going to, point at. But it can also be a tool of exploration, that you explore with it and you learn with it. That's slightly more difficult, because you end up creating a lot of footage that you don't know what you're going to do later with, but it also becomes very rich ethnographic material. But also there's the ethics of filming, right? And whether people who we're filming want to be filmed, whether they are interested in you filming them, or whether they're interested in collaborating with you, etc. But the ethics is a whole nother lecture, and we can talk about that a little bit afterwards or in another occasion. Any other questions or comments before I move on? This is your chance, guys. I'm all yours.
I might have a question.
Okay, Christine.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I can imagine that there is a lot of failed footage that also has some sensorial capacity or some sensorial information. And I'm asking this because I'm considering I'm collaborating with people with dementia that are sometimes eager and sometimes not eager to take your camera and start filming, which is actually my intention. But then you get completely different footage. It can range from people who are used to take photographs in the past, and you see kind of remnants of that in the way they engage with aesthetics and with lines and with composition, or it can range from the result that you get is an expression of kind of the lack of attention span, or the short attention span. So to which extent, and this is an open question, so I don't really expect a definite answer, but to which extent are those materials, to which extent can they make sense without being like symbolic or something, or to which extent can they like really express information
And be used.
Yeah, and be used.
Well, I think that if you're doing it in collaboration, then what you are doing is giving the other, the participants or the collaborators, the tools to frame it themselves. And as I said, framing is an interpretation of something, is a perspective. And what you're going to get there is a specific perspective that is in connection, in direct relationship to how this person engages with the technology. If they are a little bit more skillful, then the engagement with the technology is going to get you more information beyond the very engagement in itself. It will give you a perspective, yes, and in that sense, if you make it very explicit and very clear in a short film or in the visual material that that's what's happening, then I think it's extremely rich material. And now, guys, also the idea of giving you tips on how to use the camera in your cell phone, in your smartphone, it's not so that you just go out there and make an ethnographic film, right? This is not the point. The point is to make short frames, to make short, recordings, so that you can use in your research somehow, either for your own material, your own research material that you're going to engage with later, or with your writing. If you write an article and you have, I don't know, a 30-second short that you want to talk about, to illustrate something, or to engage with something, or to teach, or to give presentations, to bring it into your professional life, not as a visual anthropologist, ethnographic filmmaker. So the example that you give me, Christine, is perfect on how you would use it in your research. Yeah. And whatever it is that you want to do with it, then there's so many possibilities. Then it's up to you. And the ethics of your research. Yeah. So the thing is, guys, as I mentioned in my little recording that you hopefully watched in the lecture, my colleague Lorenzo Ferrarini, who is also a filmmaker, and he's more of a filmmaker and I'm more of a social anthropologist who uses video in my research. He is an anthropologist filmmaker. So he reminds us, and I'm reading a little excerpt here, he reminds us that recording something is not the same as creating perception. Recording is not perception per se, right? Conveying perception requires, and now I quote him, a heavy and conscious intention aimed at transforming recording in a true artifact that can evoke embodied and sensorial experience or information. So the recording that the people in your research do, Christine, needs to be reframed into a form of perception. Yeah. Does that make sense? Okay. Right. So, things that I've thought about. My mother has dementia. She's 91 years old and she lives with me. And I've been taking care of her for 5 years. Maybe feels like 9. And she's absolutely adorable. She's lovely. She's easy. It's not Alzheimer's, she's in a good mood, etc. And I've been trying to make little short films with her. And she's been having fun with it. Now, this is not my research. I haven't gone through any ethics application to do this. And this is why I'm not also showing this to you, because it's completely personal. Okay. So, but the things that I think about when I'm filming her is the kinds of, and I took note here, that's why I'm looking at the screen. I'll bring it here. The kinds of contingencies that the aging body forces the person to face. There are all sorts of contingencies that she's constantly having to deal with, even if they have been known before, they are no longer known. So I've been trying to film these moments of awe, of wow, this is new, while it's not, well, it has not been new, but it's new for her. And her negotiation of new forms of relating to me, relating to my partner, relating to the puppy that we just got, that, it's a mad decision, but she, what interests me is to see how she finds strategies. They are very contingent, they're very contextual to deal with these things. And also moments in which I try to capture stuff that's intangible, that is about her imagination, her memory or lack of memory, about her interiority, things like loneliness, estrangement, that kind of, how do I capture that? And this is why, the person-year experience that I want to try to portray. And this is why I selected the lecture that I selected, because I think that Sweetgrass, the way in which they filmed Sweetgrass, the slow pace, the slow unfolding of whatever, it's very pertinent to the way in which I think I should film her. And I think that it might resonate with some of your research. I don't know. This is something that we can explore. So now I would like to, how am I doing with time, Barbara and Matthew? How much time do I have?
We still have about 50 minutes. 50.
50.
40 minutes.
Oh my God.
No, or 40 minutes. We agreed on.
We have an eternity. We have an eternity. Let's go to, I'm deluding myself. Let's go to the website. I am going to share my screen. Hopefully I will share it without any hiccups. Share screen. Desktop 2. Share sound, optimize for video clip. Close this. Are you seeing? I don't see you anymore. Are you seeing the website?
We do. Yes.
Yes.
Okay, excellent, great. And do you see a little frame of my face as well?
I
Yes.
can see this.
Ah, that's annoying. I didn't want that, but that's fine. Okay, so you went through the excerpts of Sweetgrass. Let me see. I want to just talk about two of them, or maybe three very short ones. The first ones. Let's watch this together and tell me if you can. Can you hear the sound?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. So guys, to actually show you what's going on in this scene in terms of process, shearing of the sheep, the directors didn't need to have such a long scene, right? Because you can see from a few shots, you can see what's going on here, or they are being sheared. This machine is very loud, and this is what happens. And then he could have cut and gone someplace else, but he stays here. He stays. And I don't know about you, but by now I'm feeling almost that machine in my skin. I almost feel like that sheep. Good, this would have been good enough. Cut, go somewhere else. We know what's going on, but he continues. He goes to the next one. He has lowered his camera, his body down to get an angle that is closer to the ship than to the man. Another one goes. And he keeps going. One of the things that he's doing here is it's really trying to get his audience to be in that place, right? To hear that relentless noise of that machine, to see how the sheep are handled, to look at the fastness of the process. You know, it's one shape of the water, pa, 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 pa. But also, he is getting us a bit closer to how kind it feels to have that machine on your body, with your, you know, fur being, I don't know how you call sheep fur, sheep skin, whatever, being shaved off of you. Yeah, so it's that kind of sensoriality that that I'm talking about, and that comes with a camera that lingers, a camera that really allows the audience to watch, and the audience doesn't only watch, the audience goes, okay, what am I doing here? This is a bit boring. And then you relinquish your boredom, whatever, you know, irritation that you have. You go, okay, then I'm going to watch it. And then you realize, oh, something clicks. And this something that clicks is not something that you can understand immediately or put a word to it immediately. You just go with the flow. And that kind of evocation of a sensorial experience in your audience is what the filmmakers were trying to achieve here. And it's what I think one can easily replicate with the use of a camera in your smartphone, because this is not a very difficult technique, right, of filming. It requires patience, it requires a steadiness, it requires comfort with, you know, you being comfort with your smartphone, and it requires you being skilled with the technology of your smartphone, but it doesn't require any virtuosity or any, you know, crazy editing. Yeah. The grass feeding is kind of the same. This is I cannot make it bigger. This is the kind of scene that, you know, when I first watched that film, I was, what the heck? I wasn't very young. I was younger, right? And I was a bit skeptical, because to me this was like hyper observational and a little bit of fly in the wall, with very little self-reflexivity. But as you watch the film, you realize that there is self-reflexivity, because the self-reflexivity here is not about the filmmaker talking to the people or but it's about having this embodied camera, this camera that, you know, is positioned with somebody's body. You know, this camera doesn't go anywhere that the body of the filmmaker wouldn't go. So let's go here for a little while. So after the shearing, they eat out of this machine. By now, my very impatient self would say, oh, come on. You know, what's the point? And it goes on and on and on for another minute. So I'm not going to torture you again with it. I'm kidding. You know, I actually learned to love that scene. But what's the point of that scene? And it's a question. It's not a rhetorical question. Somebody, please talk to me. Hello?
So I will just
What do you think?
unless we have other comments. So I will go first. So I'm not, and I hope my connection is still stable. So just like with also the previous shot, what I was impressed with was the board, the being there that it evoked in me, but this being there I can translate into also boredom, or something that I usually feel when I am with my family in the village. They have a farm, and I always city, I just missed it, and I just feel how romantic it could. I imagine how romantic it could be, and when you were there on the tractor, etc., for 2 or 3 hours, you kind of like your senses are going everywhere, and you don't know if it's romantic or it's boring, if it's safe, environmental issues, etc. And I really had the same feeling here, and it was thanks to the length of the clip and the fact that they have this fly on the wall perspective. It has shown a lot here, so that was it really, when I was watching it, it really helped me also slow down. I was very open to all other senses that I could feel also after I stopped watching.
Yeah, thank you. Perfect. It's that's it. I think that there is a point in which you go, okay, I'm giving up being bored or irritated, and I'm going to let myself watch this. And then you start paying attention to the details, you start paying attention to what David McDowell talks about, the ability of film or images to be composite. You know, you look at the landscape, you look at the ground, you look at the machine, you hear the sheep, all of this stuff going on at the same time. And then within the wider frame of the film, they are actually showing you information here as well. They're not only making you sense and feel how painstakingly, boring this is, but also what kind of grass or what kind of feeding they have to do on winter in Montana with for the sheep to survive, and why is it that they then take them to higher grounds where the grass is sweet. Yeah, so you can see that this is about bitter grass maybe, but it's that if you're filming somebody doing a process or doing something and they do it slowly because they're aging or because they have the time, because they are retired, because they can afford it, and you will then get access to their tempo, to their rhythm of life, and then you start getting access to how they actually live their lives or see their world, or evoke the emotions that they want to evoke on you, etc. And this one that I'm going to show lastly, it's almost like a photograph. The static and the composite aspect of this scene, of this shot, is extremely powerful, because you see a lot here. You see that they are going through a very sleepy town, a very small town away, and they are taking, the whole flock is taking the main street, the little shops that compose this small town, the hills at the back, the weather, and then the movement of the sheep and the sound that they make.
Talk about this in the Bible. Look at it.
So what a scene like that allows us, and I'm going to stop sharing because this is what I wanted to show you. And what a scene like that allows you allows your audience is to stay there and watch everything that's given rather than having to move with your, camera movement. Yeah, it's a very formal shot, extremely formal, but very effective in that sense. It's not very innovative. It's actually quite conservative, but heck, it does the job extremely well. And to learn how to actually frame your best, find your best frame to show what you want to show, to show the story that you want to show, even if the story is very short, it's very little, go formal. I think there was somebody who wanted to ask a question, Arthur or somebody. And had that. Oh, and I see that Jay has.
Well, let Marilla go. Oh. Marilla, I've spoken before. Why don't you call her Marilla?
Okay.
Leah, and then I'll make a comment.
Maria.
Hi. Just about the first sequence. I was feeling that I had a quite different reaction because, for example, you were saying about making a commitment at certain time. Okay, I will stay and see and watch what's happening. But for me, it was the opposite. The first time I saw it, I felt like I was trapped, like the other ships that are inside there and just can't leave while they are maybe just hearing, but it was exactly opposite. And as long as the scene goes, I was becoming more anxious about the impossibility of leave the room and maybe escape from that. And then I was wondering, in terms of ethnography, like, of course, we can't control the reactions and the perceptions, but how can we manage this to maybe, because it's a very different perspective. So is there a way to
No. No, this is it. You're going to create something with an intention and you're going to put it out there, and it's going to provoke all sorts of different things that you probably had not expected. It might upset people, it might, make them bored, that's it. And I think that this is one of the things that I find with ethnographic filmmaking, that's any kind of ethnographic filmmaking that's extremely satisfactory, is that when you show the footage, or you show the film at whatever stage you are, to different people, you get even more information about what went on. You can show it to the people who you filmed, you can show it to others, and then you see what kinds of reactions people have of what you filmed, and that you can use ethnographically as well within your, obviously making it clear that that's what you're doing. Yeah, but no, you can't control. I am a control freak, but there are certain things that we just have to let go. Yeah. And I think it's great that you had that, well, it's probably very uncomfortable, but it's interesting. It's very interesting that you had a completely different perception, and probably an even closer perception to what the filmmakers wanted, because the filmmakers really want to access the non-human in this film. Yeah, the other, and the other here is a non-human. Is the sheep.
Yeah, and my comment was, Jake, I had some similar responses. I want to have more access to what was going on. The sheep, I want some more shots from the sheep perspective, from the sheep looking at what was going on. which I think would give greater insight. Having lived and worked in the Mexican community, a lot of sheep and a lot of goats, you have to get into the head of the animals to be able to control them for what you want. So
Yeah.
to me, I was shocked that that wasn't a sheep's view interspersed. Although the shot through the town was just glorious.
Yeah.
I thought, but they even then could have had a few seconds of the sheep looking at the humans and the human vehicles. Anyway, that's all I want.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. But there are some shots. There are some shots. I just don't have time to show them to you. But even in the lecture, I think that there is, right at the beginning, there's a shot in which the sheep just goes, whoop, looks at you and looks at you and looks at you. And then there's another shot in which the sheep kind of get lost a little bit in the middle of the forest and the falling trees. And the camera goes very low, the butt of the sheep, and it's trying to navigate and get stuck. And you can feel, ugh. I felt completely claustrophobic on that scene. So there are a few scenes, but yeah, there could be more. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for a very interesting explanation. I was following also your notes yesterday, and what you've been sharing. It's also fascinating. I haven't really had the opportunity to work with film. The closest I've done any visual work was photographs, and the ethnographic work I did for my PhD is more old school, just with the paper and pen. I was often, even taking photographs was very hard because the people I worked in would constantly complain how they had no privacy. So this was a displaced person's cam. So as a result, even the camera I had would be, okay, I'm not going to.
Yeah.
I only took pictures before I left the field because it was like bye-bye and that kind of thing. But what I was really struck by in the clip, especially where they were sharing the sheep, and it is kind of terrifying in a way. Like I also felt claustrophobic as well. But the other thing, because at the time I felt it also brought in something else. So the initial shock goes away, and you kind of get I won't say used to it. And I'm sure it's pretty hard work, and to be actually there's something else, but there's that sense of the grind, which I find very interesting as well. There's that grind, and then I was thinking to myself that but that's what ethnographers, that's one thing which we sort of value in ethnography, anthropology versus other, say, disciplines, so ethnography versus other things. But it was this claim that, well, we see the grind of life, whereas everybody looks at the obvious side. The difficulty I've sometimes had with the visual material, though, in that sense initially, but now this is really showing me a way forward, is does there appear to be a tension between what we're trying to capture? When I think of film, and my experience, of course, with film, I was invited by a documentary crew when I was doing my fieldwork. They said, why don't you come along with us and you'll see? And they had only come down for like a few weeks. So they were shooting, and it was a big event, and people wanted to keep coming in. And I was doing fieldwork for 4 months already, but no one really was interested because I was told I only had a pad and a pen. But there was this kind of thing that I felt they were picking up the dramatic side. It was almost obvious, and they came with like, we want to know why this and this and this. Whereas for me, I just wanted to. I was there to do field work on these people in these displaced camps. So there seems to be this tension then, I think, with some filmmakers, though, that they want to capture the more obviously dramatic, whereas ethnography has this thing about trying to capture the daily grind. So the clips you just shared of Sweetgrass, of course, show that one could use film in that way, in a way the others weren't. This is not to disrespect the filmmakers I'm talking about in that sense, but does this tension remain throughout even the ethnographic film thing?
It really depends what you want to do. There are all sorts of, schools of ethnographic filmmaking, right? And observational cinema, for example, is exactly what you're talking about. Is filming the everyday and the everydayness. Is the assumption that the everyday is important.
Yes.
That you don't have to have any big drama or a dramatic line that goes up and then it goes down in a resolution. Actually, there is no resolution. So it's the kind of filmmaking that it's not that you're leaving everything to the audience to figure out. You are framing, you are telling a story, you are showing a story, but it's not a dramatic story of an event. There can be an event if you want. It's the story of some people's everydayness, because it is worth watching that, because it's important, because we find that important, right? So there's only attention if you want it to be attention.
Right.
It depends on what is your intention. If it is the grind of everyday life, then that has importance, especially for anthropologists. Barbara.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a quick comment, and then I would like to open the floor even more. And sorry, I just don't remember how to raise my hand virtually. So about regarding the previous comment, I was once told by another visual anthropologist that the difference between documentary or any other film and ethnography, visual anthropology productions is that usually they don't have the message. So it wouldn't be that you just go somewhere and you film something because you want to show something, but correct me if I'm wrong, Angela, but I think it's like what we have seen here with those films is just about being there and trying to see what the film can show us also. And with this comment, because we have 15 or 20 minutes, so Angela, how about my question, like, would we now like to hear more from other people about their experiences, doubts, adventures with the film? And the reason for that is that we really would like to have a long systematic conversation about aging and visual anthropology. So we would like
what time do we have to leave?
I mean, we decided that we will finish 6:30 my time, 5 your time. So we still have 12 minutes, but we
can we go until 1:45?
I'm fine with that.
Are you guys okay with that?
Yes or no?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because what I really wanted to do was to split you into groups, and you brainstorm a little bit. You come up with one idea, what you would film, and then we discuss it. And then in that discussion, I think your questions can come through. Yeah. Okay. So Matthew, will you help me with that? Will you do that, or should I do it?
Christine's question first.
Lots of people have dropped out. Yeah, lots of people have dropped out. So we have a very small group of people right now.
Did you want to answer Christine's question while I'm doing that in the meantime?
There's Christina, if you could, you have a raised hand.
Oh,
Christina.
Christine.
Thinking about Anker's people you film or you work with, which is very known to many anthropologists, I think, are much more familiar with telling their story. They just want to give you their story. I'm thinking about a man I'm working with, and he said, like, I said, yeah, well, my research is about people with dementia. I'm really interested in how they adjust over time, how they integrate in this environment and so on. And he said, well, I can type you my illness story about all the operations that I had and about and so forth and so on and so forth. So I said, okay, yeah, that's nice. And I thought, yeah, this is okay. This is also okay, but this is not what you have to give me. I'm just interested in how you go about how you relate to people here. And so I think that's also the case with filming. Like, people could, I think,
perform.
Yeah, so they can be familiar with I mean, rituals, and look, this is how we do things,
Yeah.
and maybe this is interesting for you, and so of course you say thank you, but that's not really that's not really the thing that you want to get to. That's somehow in between the shots. So maybe that's also a difference between narrative and the nitty-gritty, the stories.
But Christine, if people perform for you,
it's okay.
You run with it. You just run with it.
So that's also what You take, you don't say, no, that's not what I'm after.
Yeah, no,
That's not what I'm after. You take that, but then again, there is something
Yeah.
anthropologists want that kind of is what is like what makes these narratives come up.
Yeah.
I mean, what is so that's the interesting tension. So of course you don't say, no, I don't want your letter to keep. Of course not, but it's just
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was it.
Thank you.
Right. We're ready to
Shall we go
open the
into-
rooms now.
See you in 10 minutes. 10 minutes or 5, Barbara?
Everyone's back now, I think. Yes.
Great. So who wants to start? Group 1, Giovanna, Jill, Jason. Jason?
Well, okay, I can start. So I wasn't quite sure what we were all supposed to do. We just kind of described a scene or something that we were thinking would be interesting to try to capture in this format. Does that sound about right?
That's exactly it.
So for me, I'll let the others speak for themselves, but for me, I talked about an individual that I spent a lot of time with during field work. He's a formerly incarcerated older guy. So he's about 80 years old. He's coming out of prison. We just spent mostly a lot of time in his room because he was pretty much there, all day, every day. And he had mobility limitations as well. But what I think what was interesting about that was the kind of slowness, the kind of sense of isolation, the kind of sense of being almost like you're in a kind of prison, even though you're sort of not in the prison. So having that kind of visual sense of that, I think conveying that mood, I thought would have some value. So, okay.
It makes sense. It sounds really interesting. Going through the details of the room, showing him doing nothing, thinking, out of the window, trying to move. Yeah. Convey loneliness.
Yeah,
convey...
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Perfect. Anyone else? Go ahead, Jason.
I'll pass it on to Harman. Do you want to go?
Yes, hello. Yeah, so I am working with the Tibetans in exile in India and Nepal. I've been using photography, doing on the side, and also I'm trying to integrate into my PhD, and it's not that well integrated, but I'd like to do more in the future. But I'm using photography to sort of capture the moods where I'm trying to also write in a more intimate tone about the people I'm working with. And there's just something about, again, as we were reading, sorry, I will get to what I was reading, but how sometimes with words, we can't get through, we can't always articulate what we feel in people's presence. And that is how I'm trying to use photography to kind of capture the mood that people had. Like one of the elderly women, there was a strong absence in her life. Trying to capture that with photography and make people feel that. And what I would, I really want to work more with films in the future. And the scene that I could really would like to make something out is one of the elderly women I'm working with who is 91 years old, and she has very short-term memory. But she has very strong memory of her childhood in Tibet. And these are the things she's constantly talking about. And she has been confined to her home for several years. So time for her is just like trying to capture how time moves for her. So she's either back in Tibet when she was really, really young, where the same things coming back to her, and she will repeat the same thing to me like hundreds of times, although I know about it. And then there is something about the present time where she doesn't remember what happened yesterday. And at the same time, the time that is now, it's super slow, where nothing is really happening. And she's constantly checking her watch, like every half an hour to see how much time is there for lunch, how much time is there for until she can have dinner, how much time until she can watch Tibetan opera on her caretaker's on laptop. So it's sort of trying to capture that, how
Rhythm.
times, rhythm of time. So there is the time that is sort of going in circles. She's coming back to it, she keeps repeating. And then there is the time, the present, that is sort of going really, really slow. And then there's also the future of death, because she's sort of saying always that she's on Tibetan she says that she's on top of the mountains, a Tibetan saying, and she will set down from the mountain pass every day. So it's sort of like, so she's like, she's going to die, waiting for death every day. And at the same time is not moving. And at the same time, she's very anxious for something to happen, for time to move forward. So something about that, how times moves for her.
Perfect. Yes, that would be great. I think you could do with your cell phone. Try and see what happens. Giovanna, do you want to add anything?
I'm interested in combining narratives, written stories and pictures, but I would like to use also camera and filming something that could be related, for example, to lifelong learning, lifelong education, and the relation between younger people and aged people. So I'm trying to understand which technical problems, and I think it was very useful, your lecture or explanation, Angela. But I need to deepen some more details and try to use this in some environments where I am trying to study and research these relations between young people and aged people. For example, how they work together to learn from each other how to make paintings. I'm trying to understand this here in Italy, where I am based, and it's very interesting to see this relation not only in formal education but also in informal education. And so I try to study these relations using narratives, but I have always thought that pictures and videos are very, very helpful.
I think that both of you, the three of you, did what you told me about the research. I think that the ideal would be really to mix text and really short little clips and the texts, and make them talk to each other. I think that would be very, very useful. Yeah.
I had in IUAS, I gave a workshop in, about writing stories, and we used the images in that workshop. But I would like to go further and use also videos, because words can have a very an added value in using visual.
Words do one thing.
Yeah.
images do something else, and when they work together,
Yeah.
I think that it's the ideal.
And
Yeah.
I liked your idea or of a framing. Filming is framing and interpretation. And I stress this idea, and I focus on this idea also when I teach writing, because in a sentence, you cannot tell everything you are seeing or you are you have in your memory. So you have to focus and use topic sentences, but topic sentences can be matched with this what you call the interpretation and framing. That it's very good.
Yeah, and show one shot after the other that tells the story. Yeah. Great, thank you.
And I like also the idea of bridging networks. So Barbara with Angela, and I think this is a good idea. You cannot stop in some limits every interest. So it's
no, when Barbara approached us, I thought it was a great idea. I think I completely agree, because it makes me think about using visual anthropology in specific topics. Yeah. So Jay, Valeria, and I think you lost the third person on your group. Valeria, do you want to start, given that we heard from Jay before?
Okay, so we were talking a little bit more about our projects and our engagement with filming and visual anthropology. So in my case, I'm doing now a PhD in health and social science with an anthropology background. My research is about the role of arts and leisure activities in lives of people affected by dementia before the pandemic. So in the original project plan, there was filming. So my plan was to film some performing arts workshop with families and this is based in the UK, where there is a lot of these art activities in theaters and in other cultural venues. So this was the plan, the initial plan, and to work with portraits. But obviously with the pandemic, my project I changed everything. So we were talking a little bit more about this, and in my case actually I'm asking some participants if they want to share pictures of their creative outputs. So some of them do drawings, or people are sending pictures from their gardens of crafts. So I'm doing some crafts inspired by the pictures that they sent me. So this has been now my way to engage with visual and sensory modes.
That's excellent. Multimodal. Yeah. Yeah, why not? I mean, ethnographic filming is only one little aspect of what we should be calling multimodal anthropology rather than visual anthropology or audiovisual anthropology. Yeah. Oh, excellent. Maybe we'll include videos in there at some point.
Hope so.
Thank you. Jay. I can't hear you.
You're on mute.
I'm back. Part of the discussion that we had with the other anthropologists was that it was difficult in her situation to do visual recording, especially in Brazil with the women she was working with, because they were very sensitive about the representation. And I had suggested that, kind of harkening back to my comments about the visual perspective of the sheep, I thought they would like to see the world as they see it, including photographs of themselves as younger individuals, as a way of getting around this, and the fact that Brazil has the highest level of both female and male cosmetic, usually facial and body reconstruction and surgery per capita of any place in the world. I didn't get to talk about that question that had been posed of what you'd like to film. And as I thought about that afterwards, when the time was up, I would have liked to have the technology that we have now in the late 1970s and early 80s, when I was living on the streets in New York periodically, doing a long-term study on mental health of released mental patients and then homeless individuals. It would have taken, probably 3 or 4 months that it would have been trusted enough. And the technology is easy enough now that I could have bought phones. And actually today, a lot of the homeless people that I know in St. Petersburg, Florida, get simple government phones that can do some basic video. And, so that's the kind of thing, because people were extraordinarily sensitive about visualization of themselves, and would sometimes get quite agitated by people taking pictures of them. So that's a real advantage, but we also discussed the need to not rush into to video and even photography until you're really established, so that people will want you to document certain parts of their lives. And it certainly would have been the case. As I'm saying this, I'm trying to envision how I would have done that on New York's Bowery, or the similar project in Baltimore. And the problem was there that in both cases, it was very dangerous, especially for women. It may have been almost impossible with the women on the Bowery who were older women who were homeless, because probably like 80% of the women that I talked to had been assaulted on the street in one way or another, even in the shelters. Some felt were even more dangerous than the streets if they found a good place to hide themselves. So that would have been something that I would have only done it with them documenting their lives rather than me doing it. And it would have been the only ethical thing to do.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think even anthropology, any kind of ethnographic research, isn't it? I think that we should only do it really if there is an interest from the people who we are working with. If they are interested in it, if they are going to, if they believe that it's something that they will benefit from somehow. And when you bring a camera, when you bring images, things get heightened. All of the questions, all of the ethical questions get heightened, and you really need to be careful and to think about it. And without collaboration, there is no point. There is no point to do anthropology without firm collaboration, isn't it? And interest and mutual interest. Right. Christine, I think we lost another person there, Christine and Barbara. It's because we're going, oh God, it's almost 10 to.
Oh my God.
Well, Christine, then Barbara, I'm sorry. We'll talk another time with you.
Okay, well, maybe, yeah, I'm also fine with Barbara going, but I think we mainly discussed, our projects and some of the, maybe still some of the ethical issues. And I think that Joyce, she published a book on methodologies, but was sorry for not engaging with visual and audiovisual methodologies in her work. So she was kind of explorative of how to do that in the future. And then, yeah, we indeed talked about some ethical issues and how far off the ground our projects were. So there were not really concrete
examples,
ideas of shots that we would like to take. Although if we would have had 10 minutes, I'm sure that would. So maybe it's good to keep it short so that everybody can. That was our conversation.
Okay, well, I think that we're coming into a close now. We have already, and we've gone much beyond our time. So that's why the room has dwindled as well. Barbara, do you want to close it?
So a wrap up of the wrap up. Thank you so much, Angela, first and foremost, and for this wonderful lecture, and for everybody for coming and your input. Let me just
thank you.
what I'm going to be visual here. Yeah. So that is, yeah, thanks so much for this, and an info for everybody. So we really mean to have this collaboration together with, continue the conversation. And in the next semester, Paulo Favero, so also a convener of VANEASA, he will also make a lecture or seminar about time and aging and using sensory methods. So we will build on this introduction that Angela has offered to us, and we will continue talking. So just to finish, like there are links to VANEASA and AgeNet. If you please sign up if you're not a member already, and you will be updated about the next upcoming events. So I think, like Angela said, that after this webinar, her summer will start. So, and I think,
yes,
so enjoy all the sensual effects that the summer will bring to you. So I was trying to be poetic, failed. But yeah, thank you so much to everybody. And yeah, let's keep in touch. Matthew, do you want to say have the last words?
Oh, unnecessarily entirely. Just thank you, Angela, and thank you, Barbara, for hosting this event. It's been fantastic, and it's been great to learn more about visual anthropology as a novice myself. So thank you. Enjoy your annual leave, Angela.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you for being here, and for the last ones who endured the overtime. And I hope to bump into you some time in the future in person.
Or in the Zoom meeting, yeah. There exists also the Zoom bumping, I think. Even.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.